there, and welcome to the Secrets of Organ Playing podcast. I'm your host, Vidas Pinkevičius. Welcome to Secrets of Organ Playing podcast number 85. This is Sunday, March 12, 2017, and today's guest is Italian organist and harpsichordist Maurizio Croci. And he was born in Varese and holds diplomas in organ and harpsichord studies from the conservatoires of music of Milan and Trent, and spent 4 years at the Schola Cantorum in Basle in Switzerland on advanced courses in organ and harpsichord under Jean-Claude Zehnder and Andrea Marcon. He also graduated Summa cum laude in musicology at Fribourg University in Switzerland under Professor Luigi Ferdinando Tagliavini. Maurizio is the prize winner of the Paul Hofhaimer international competition. Maurizio is currently working as organ professor at the High School of Music in Fribourg and at the Conservatoire de Fribourg in Switzerland, and is also harpsichord professor at the Milano Civica Scuola di Musica, Milano Public School of Music, and also the organist at the Basilica of the Holy Trinity in Bern and of the College of Saint Michel in Fribourg. Maurizio Croci is the artistic director of the Académie d'Orgue de Fribourg and served as a chair until the past year of the Council of Artistic Directors of ECHO, European Cities of Historical Organs. So today we're talking about Maurizio's activities as an organist and harpsichordist, and most recently Maurizio has recorded a CD called Bach Mirrored. We will talk about that, about the idea behind this concept that in one CD Maurizio combined both organ and harpsichord works by Johann Sebastian Bach, where he found correlations of both instruments in a similar way composed two different compositions. So this is a very fascinating project, and we will talk about that in great detail. So I hope you will be inspired by this conversation, especially if you are interested in both organ and harpsichord, because we will talk about how organ and harpsichord is related and how it is different also, and how it can improve your playing style. So let's go to the show and let's find out about the work of Maurizio Croci. Thank you so much, Maurizio, for joining in this conversation. I found out about your work not very long time ago when I saw your beautiful CD, Bach Mirrored. I was so impressed with the idea that you can contrast both harpsichord and organ inspired works, right, in one CD. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time, generosity of sharing ideas, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to speak with you and with this big audience of organ lovers.
Yes. So can you share a little bit, Maurizio, how you first fell in love with the organ? Or maybe it was the harpsichord first?
No, it was really the organ. Mm-hmm. It was like a call for me. I was just in love with the sound that I heard, I think as many people did in the church for the first time. And I remember very well the exact moment when I really feel that this sound was so, for me, so incredible that I wanted to do this, to play, to discover. So it was really for the organ that I started to make music. But of course, in the studies, I had to do the piano first, and the harpsichord came later for me. Came at the time of Basel, a little bit before. So after my organ diploma.
Wonderful, Maurizio. You studied with fantastic professors at Schola Cantorum in Basel, right? With Jean-Claude Zehnder and Andrea Marcon. They both are internationally renowned experts on early music, right? Generally on any keyboard instrument, right? What have you learned from both Zehnder and Marcon? They are very different, right? So you probably
they are quite different. different.
So you probably
personality is
learn
quite
different
different.
things. Yes. So can you share a little bit with us?
Yes, the personality of Andrea and Jean-Claude is very different. Even if they are have I think in general the same aesthetic and the same musical. I will not say musical ideas, but the same approach to the music, to the source. So a big respect to the source, a big respect to the historical instruments, and also the will to know objective things about Aufführungspraxis before making your own interpretations. But of course, the personality is very different, and Andrea is more Italianate way of playing. So is a very great communicator of his enthusiasm and his musical ideas. And I think this thing that he transmitted to me. And Jean-Claude is an incredible expert of Bach music, and especially Bach music, and he devoted his entire life, I must say, to the study of Bach, of the Bach style, and of course it was for me an incredible living encyclopedia of this information of his connaissance of the sources, and also his musical approach, very fine, very refined, very sensitive. I liked very much, and influenced very much to me. And one very important thing that both learned me was the way of making the organ and the harpsichord sounding. So the so-called touché.
Yes.
They have both a very sensitive touché, and they study a lot on this. And I think everybody can easily recognize when an organist is conscious of this problem, because the instrument is sounding totally different, especially, of course, historical instruments.
How harpsichord and let's say organ touché, the touch is different in general. Do you have a system or a method to play differently on each instrument, or they both similar maybe in a way?
In a certain way, they are both similar, because the technique, the finger technique is I must say, almost the same. But of course, to make it sounding well, they are really different, because one is of course a string instrument, and with a very dry sound, so which need to be sustained as much as possible by different means, different way of playing, and the other is the opposite. So it has a continuous sound. Normally, it is very often it is placed in a big acoustic. So you need to try to make it more clear.
Right.
So to play it sometimes, let's say, drier. But of course, in both instruments, the basic we can say that,
yes,
to do everything is to controlling the length of the notes. So a very precise and very specialized approach to the technique, a very complicated, not say complicated, but a very refined way of controlling the length of notes, which is quite different on the piano, of course.
Yes, so both instruments, you're saying, have in common the idea that the touch is really cannot really affect the dynamics of the instrument too much, right? Cannot make louder or softer like on the piano or clavichord, right? But the difference is that the organ sound can last indefinitely, whereas the harpsichord sound fades right away. So probably we have to apply different techniques to prolong the sound on the harpsichord, right? Like trills, ornaments, and other things. And to make it more clear on the organ in the vast cathedral space, to articulate more clearly. And you're saying that for all of that to happen, we need to control our releases and length of the notes, right?
Yes, I must say we can give the impression of a dynamic. Of course, it's not a real dynamic change, but with length of notes, we can give to the public the impression of a dynamic, which is very important, not to play each note at the same dynamic level, same importance.
Right. So of course, when you're playing harpsichord, there are only few stops possible, right? Maybe 8-foot strings, right? Maybe 4-foot strings, maybe lute sound, right? Maybe combination of 8 and 4, coupled manuals, right?
Yes.
And that's about it, right? But you could still make beautiful music for the entire length of the recital, right?
Of course.
So the music probably speaks for itself, and it doesn't need to be like gigantic instrument with hundreds of stops and color combinations like organ, right? Maurizio, how do you keep your harpsichord pieces interesting, where the sound level is approximately similar?
Yeah, as I told before, is a I don't have the word in English. I don't know. You should go a little bit deeper in your approach and play with the length of notes, with sustaining certain notes and articulating other notes, and playing arpeggio, playing some notes faster or slower. In order to give a variety of sound and variety of I remember Gustav Leonard called it effetto placebo, so to give like a placebo effect to the public. So they should think that there is a dynamic variety in the harpsichord. If you hear a recital or a CD where the harpsichord sounds like I don't know, very mechanical, very metallic sound, and very boring, equal sound. Of course, this is very bad. So in that case, I agree with people that prefers Bach on the piano than on harpsichord, because harpsichord is an instrument that could be very, very expressive, even if you cannot make a real dynamic, but you can give a relative dynamic, let's say, or the so-called placebo effect. So you can do a lot of differences in the music with the length of notes, with the arpeggio, with the ornaments, as you told, with playing together or not together some notes of a chord, for instance. There are a lot of possibilities, and I try to do this, and it's not so easy, I must say, to find this way of playing on the harpsichord, because it is also very personal. As Froberger said, I think he said that his music had to be studied griff by griff. Donc, every chord should be tried and studied individually to make it sounding well and convincing, and giving an expression of an affect, and also a dynamic. And so it's a very, I must say, deep study of these things, of dynamic and touch and touche.
What is the most the earliest piece have you played on the harpsichord or the organ for you? Do you remember the earliest?
The oldest. I think I played certainly from Buchsheimer Orgelbuch.
Yes.
And maybe also from Faenza Codex. I remember a concert in Basel many years ago. It was for an exposition of I don't remember. I think it was a book exposition, of early books exposition. So I was demanded to play a very early program, and I played this music. But I normally quite often play Italian music of the early 16th century. For instance, Marcantonio Cavazzoni, Jacopo Fogliano, Brumel, and so on. And also I play Hofhaimer music, but I also played music from the very early sources like Faenza.
These are very remote times, right? Like very exotic cultures we're talking about. People today in 21st century have no idea how it all were communicated, and how people made perhaps connection with the music at that time. Today it's very different, right? How people react when you play those early pieces today?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
How people react when you play such an early composition? Do they understand what you're trying to say, or they feel like it's very exotic music and exotic sounds, and that's it?
Yeah. Of course, it depends of the public. You have also to take care to play this music in certain place, maybe not every time, and maybe it's difficult to have a complete program on this music. But I think nowadays people are very used to listen to early music, even to medieval music. So I find it not so difficult for them to understand or to appreciate this repertoire. Of course, I think one problem of many organ recital is that it is a little bit, I don't know how to say in English, I'm sorry, autoreferentiale. So you many programs are made for organists or for the organist himself, let's say.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit too not taking into account the general level of a public of music lover. So you should combine, and even for later music. For instance, I've made 2 Monteverdi recordings with my ensemble, and also Monteverdi music is not so easy to understand sometimes, especially for the non-Italian speaking people. So we tried to combine it in a way that it is really there is always a lot of variety in the form and in the styles. So combining maybe dance forms with more serious forms like motet or madrigal and so on, and that makes a program which is interesting even for people that are not really used to listen every day this kind of music. So I think it's a little bit the responsibility of the interpreter to be to make a sort of mediation, to go to the public. Not to just to say, okay, I'm the very cultivated organist. I want to play the Codex Faenza number 20, and you have to accept it. But I think we should be in dialogue with our public.
Exactly, great idea. Even in Italy and in Switzerland, right, where you work, people are very, very educated in general, culturally, right? And but that doesn't mean that very stylistically specific music can be played for them without explanation, communication in some way. You still need to work a little bit for the idea of early music or earliest music to get into their hearts, right?
Absolutely. I mean, for the music, classical music in general nowadays, because I think the general cultural level and the cultural of today is going in other directions. So unfortunately, the young people are not so used to classical music, and also the education. If I think in Italy, so the musical education in the school is still very, very bad. Basic education, so the children are not learning so much in the school, so they are not very used to listen to this kind of music, and which is a little bit out of fuori moda, not a little bit old-fashioned. So I think we should every time think that we are a sort of ambassadors of this repertoire to maybe also a person who comes for the first time to an organ concert, maybe by chance. So it should not be the last time that he comes to an organ concert. So we should attract people and be a sort of ambassadors of our music, also for people that are not so specialists.
And of course, that's what you're doing with Académie d'Orgue de Fribourg, right? Organ Academy in Fribourg. You're trying really to communicate the idea of 7 centuries of organ music, right? Basically, enormous repertoire, right? And make it accessible to the general audience. So
yes, we are trying to do this with a special attention to the children.
Yes.
And since I think now many years, let's say 10 years, we are every year making a special project for children, with combining organ with other arts, with text and
cinema probably,
and so cinema and theater and so on. With last year it was with live drawing. So we had a person drawing on the music on the Carnival of Saint-Saëns, animal carnival.
Wonderful.
Was drawing animals, and they were projected in the church with nice effects with computer, and it was so inspiring for children. So we try to, especially with children, to have new projects to let them come in this world of the organ music. And the last year with ECHO, with the Association of ECHO, we had a competition, a call for projects international for projects for children. It was a great success because we had many projects coming from all over the world, and the winner could play in the different ECHO cities, and also he had a prize. And we are thinking it was we had so many good projects. Unfortunately, we had to choose only one. But we are thinking to use also the other projects that we received to make them circulating in the different ECHO cities. And in 3 years, we will launch another competition to have other projects. So I think yes, one of the main goals of our academy in Fribourg is. Despite of the name, academy one could think that it is like elitaire thing. At the beginning, it was more intended for professional organists to have a master class and on historical organs. But now we think that we should include a larger public. So we are trying to make concerts where the different organs historical that we are lucky to have in Fribourg and the different repertoire are also a little bit showed to a non-specialized audience.
Wonderful. I so appreciate your efforts to promote the art of organ to children. This is our future basically, and whatever you instill in their young minds will probably bear fruits 10 and 20 years from now, right? They will become maybe more appreciative of what we're doing as organists and in general as musicians probably. So it's great idea to combine various arts with organ demonstrations, right? I remember myself a few months ago at Vilnius University here, where I work, had an organ demonstration for 8 to 11 years children, and I did this storytelling improvisation about the very well-known fairy tale musicians of Bremen. You know the story, Brothers Grimm, and I asked the children to draw the characters, the the animals and the robbers and the organ as well. And I improvised everything and told the story into Lithuanian. And these children were very, very focused. Because they were drawing all the time and heard this storytelling and improvisation on different stops and divisions of the largest pipe organ in Lithuania. And then when I stopped, I took all the pictures, all the drawings, and made the pictures into a movie. Basically animated movie with the music and storytelling, and put it on YouTube, so that really this idea of art combination is very, very powerful, and children really respond
very
to it.
interesting.
Very interesting.
I will have a look to YouTube.
I will send you the link. I'm not telling you that I did something, very unique or worth of notice, but it's just another idea what you can even think of about integrating various arts and incorporating the audience into the show, right? They are acting.
That's very
themselves.
important. Yes.
Interactive.
Yes.
Excellent. So what you're doing is so tremendously valuable for children as well, Maurizio. And of course your Il Pegaso ensemble, who tries to discover new compositions of Monteverdi and Frescobaldi, right? They are so innovative approaches. Can you tell a little bit how this ensemble came about?
So this ensemble was created because of a discovery, in occasion of a discovery of new Monteverdi pieces. It was not made by us, but by a colleague working in Fribourg University, Luigi Ferdinando, who discovered in Poland, I think, it's in in Breslau, a printed source of motets of Monteverdi. So it's very strange because it was a printed source, but it was totally unknown. And in this source, this source contains 3 unknown motets of Monteverdi, beautiful motets, and all the 3 are on Salve Regina and Regina Celis, on Marial text. And at the same time, another Swiss, almost at the same time, another Swiss scholar, Christian Jeanneret, working in at that time in Geneva, she discovered in Paris a small booklet of sketches of Frescobaldi. So it was I think the only one musical autograph. Complete musical autograph by Frescobaldi. So I had the idea to put these 2 discoveries, quite exceptional, of the 2 most important Italian composers of the 17th century, together to make this CD and this program called Salve Regina, where we tried to also, as I told before, to create a variety in the program between and also contrast between instrumental music, vocal sacred music, and different forms, different ways of instrument of playing the basso continuo with the tiorba alone, tiorba and organ, and so on. And I think it was a very nice experience, and we had quite a good success with these CDs, and we created an ensemble. And with also a quite special composition, because we are 3 singers, 2 tenors and 1 bass, and tiorba and organ. So we are the quality of the sound is quite special, and so we continued, and we played other programs of always in the 17th century music with other Italian and German composers, also Schütz music, and then the second project was. For a CD was the Travestimenti, so I decided to record some little known travestimenti, so contrafacta of Monteverdi madrigals set in a sacred text, in a sacred way. So not very very well known Lamento di Arianna, which became Pianto della Madonna and so on. But some less known that we found in some libraries also until Malta, Malta Library. There is a very beautiful transcription of the madrigal Chiome d'Oro, which became Ecce Panis Angelorum and so on. And we made also recording of the only unique instrumental tablature of a Monteverdi piece made at the time of Monteverdi, which is a ballo del Monteverdi for lute or tiorba. And we discovered that this ballo del Monteverdi is nothing else than the ballo delle Ingrate, the very famous ballo of Monteverdi. And we played it for Evangelina Mascardi, our tiorbo player. She recorded it, and we were also inspired by this to make our own tablature of some Monteverdi pieces.
Right.
And because it's quite strange that at that time we have Monteverdi was so famous, but instrumentalists didn't take so much his music to play for the instrument as was the case for other musicians. Maybe because the Monteverdi music is really intended for the voice. It's really a vocal music and very strong linked to the text. But we tried with two little pieces, and I think it works. I let the public to judge if it works or not.
What you did, Maurizio, with intabulations, we have to remind our listeners what it is, right? You take a vocal composition and adapt it to the keyboard, right?
Yes.
So that it would be playable, not only playable for the keyboard instrument, but also would sound keyboard-like. You add passages, right?
Yes.
You add different figurations, right?
Of course.
You sort of continue the tradition from the 16th century, even 17th century, right? Where the organist routinely had to intabulate and make arrangements of vocal motets and other pieces.
Yes, it was of course an art. Let's say the repertoire, the very first repertoire of organists came from vocal music in the 16th century. Then the organists had created their own repertoire, so making independent pieces, but they still continued to have in parallel with newly created pieces, to have in the repertoire a series of intabulation of vocal pieces. It was one of the demands of the famous competition for becoming organist in San Marco in Venice.
Yes.
At the 16th century, so to be able to play from the score, from the open score, a vocal score, adapting it on the organ. And we have to think that even if it was a typical 16th century art of the organ playing, this continues in the 17th century. For instance, in Italy, we still have Girolamo Frescobaldi that in 1637 published. And in this second book of Toccata, the one tabulation in tablature of Arcadelt madrigal.
Yes.
And we have Scheidemann, we have many examples.
Yeah.
So it was, I think, a typical art of the organist,
yes,
or the keyboard player, to play vocal music.
And it sounds so beautiful when you contrast it to the original vocal version, right? You first sing or perform with the ensemble, right? And then you intabulate on the organ or harpsichord, right? It's so beautiful that because really people can appreciate the similarities and the differences what you're doing.
Of course, yes, yes.
So I'm very, very fascinated by this idea also, that you are really full taking full advantage of those early music models and giving as those treasures to the 21st century audience today. So yes. Maurizio, of course, your newest CD is different, right? You took harpsichord and organ pieces by Bach and created this fantastic CD project called Bach Mirrored. How did you come about with this idea, and what did you wanted to show organ music lovers and harpsichord also lovers?
Yeah, I was fascinated since long time that the fact that Bach could, but also other composers, of course, but sometimes the same musical ideas came from one instrument to the other, or from one form, instrumental or vocal form, to the other, and they are transforming themselves and many times before acquiring a definitive form. So my idea was to show how in the keyboard music of Bach there are some examples of this process. So there are clear correlation between some pieces, less clear, but clear exchange between other pieces. But my ideas was to show it in a CD, and to also to create a link between these pieces and between these two instruments that also I personal play, and which are my two favorite instruments.
What are the first two pieces on the CD? Can you remember?
The first piece, I think, is the D major prelude, organ prelude, which has, of course, a very clear and very clear, evident correlation with the toccata in D major for harpsichord 912.
Right.
And they are both starting with this brilliant scale in D major. In organ is a pedal scale, so the first first example of quick pedal scale in the organ repertoire. So a virtuoso tratto, virtuoso characteristic. And in the toccatas there is the same idea, but on the with a manual scale. And also the structure of the piece is very similar, and with tremolo, with change of effects. So there are pieces of the young Bach. Mm-hmm. So with a lot of these how to say, brilliant ideas, many different ideas, many contrasts, a lot of passion in this music, and it's a Bach completely different from the Bach of the Leipzig time, where I may say the intellectual and intellectual aspect and the incredible skill of writing polyphonic music is the main aspect. Mm-hmm. Here we have a young and exuberant genius, and we have these very incredible pieces. Maybe not perfect in the form and in the control of the form, but I find it so incredible. So I love it so much.
Mm-hmm. And Maurizio, a very interesting idea when you say that D major toccata for harpsichord and D major preludium and fugue are also related, right? Do these pieces come from the same period in Bach's life?
Yes, more or less. More or less the same period. Yes.
So even the tonality, the key is the same, right? So
the key is the same.
Structure is the same. Similar.
Yes. Also the structure is there is a close affinity, and with full of toccata passages and recitative like section, and also with of course, contrapuntal and the motivic section. So I think the correlation is very evident, as well as evident is the correlation between the two prelude in C major I recorded. Let's say in this case, the two pieces are really one the variant of the other. There are a lot of variants of this prelude, which in its definite form becomes the prelude in C major of the second book of the Well-Tempered Clavier, and in its final organ version became the famous 545 prelude in C major.
545.
And in the variant organ variant I choose, which is the one of the London manuscript, the similarity is really evident. So both are starting with the same motive, with the same pedal point, and so on.
And again, the keys are the same, right? C major.
The keys are the same, yes, of course.
Maurizio, we sort of touched about this subject briefly, but is it did every key had the same or similar combinations of figurations in Bach's day? Maybe he had in mind first the motives and figurations, and then he chose a key. What came first for Bach, key or figurations? Ideas. Do you know?
Very difficult questions.
Can you elaborate?
I cannot give an answer.
Speculate. Let's speculate.
I think the affect came first, and then I think it is quite. It's quite evident that there are some correlation between affects and the tonality. There are some pieces, but also tonality could have a reason to be searched in the organology. For instance, I don't know. I'm thinking to the flute. So the B minor is one of the most well-sounding for the traversiere, and so on. But of course, in F minor, or such a minor piece, especially F minor, was intended really like lamento. But I cannot say that one figuration is really adapted only to one tonality.
But generally, affect is taken into consideration probably first, right? The composer would choose the affect, the character of the piece, the emotion, right? And then think about what key would probably work best for this.
Of course,
emotion.
there was still a tradition of using the modes linked to an affect coming from the 16th century theoreticians. So also you find for organ, you find also in Die Ruta about each mode is associated to an affect, and also to a destination for, in that case, for liturgical use. For instance, the fourth mode, so let's say E, is the mode he says adapted for the lament, and for the elevation in that case. So there is a tradition, and also at the basis, of course, a mood associated to a mode, and then to a tonality.
Exactly. But what else is on your?
But of course, when pieces became really tonal, and not modal anymore, I think the difference is less evident.
Yes. And did you record any other works on this CD? Can you elaborate? What else is contrasted?
Yeah, the other works are the A minor Prelude and Fugue, where I choose it because of the similarity of the two fugues themes. One, so the A minor Prelude and Fugue for organ, 543, and the Fantasia and Fugue, but it is really a fugue with a short arpeggio, I think 8 major arpeggio Fantasia before. So the two fugues are as a theme which is very similar, and also the affect of the theme of the fugues, I think is very similar.
And this, Maurizio, I interrupt you? This 8-measure Fantasia in A minor for harpsichord, is it complete or not? It's not.
Yes, it is complete. It was also, you find also in Haendel pieces, for instance. It was quite common to write only long chords and then write arpeggio.
Yes.
Under them. So the harpsichordist should improvise arpeggios on these chords. You find the most famous example is the chromatic fantasia and fugue, where you have a lot of I think 3 parts of series of chords written out in long notes, and then with the indication arpeggio. So the harpsichordist can do as he wants, and to feel these chords, and to also to give an effect with the speed of the arpeggio, with the way of making it. So it was interesting for me also to try to make something with this long arpeggio and long notes.
It's sort of related to the French idea of unmeasured prelude, right? That Couperin did in his age. But it's different also from the French.
Yeah, it's different because you have even less information. Of course, you have the exact, I mean, almost the exact length of the chord. So how long should be, because you have a value, but you don't have the way of so the direction of the arpeggio, the succession of the notes. What do you have on the opposite way in a prelude non mesuré? But yes, I think it's the same way of thinking.
Basically, a performer has to improvise, right? What you're saying?
Yes, to improvise and to find out his own way of doing it,
based on the model that is written on the page.
Yes, yes. In the chromatic fantasia and fugue, in the first part of this section, in the first of these 3 sections with arpeggio, Bach starts to write an arpeggio. So an arpeggio coming from the bass, going up and then coming down again. So, and then he stops and he writes only long notes chords. So it could be I think it is an indication of how to start at least this arpeggio. So I think one should continue when it is possible to use it at least for the first section. But the problem is that if you have different kind of chords, for instance, 7th chords, you have more notes than when you play only a major chord or minor chord. So it's not always possible to play the same rhythm and the same way. So you have to adapt every time.
And I see that you have Fantasia and Fugue in G minor here, 542, the beautiful, very chromatic work. And what it is related in harpsichord, Maurizio?
Yes, I must say this is maybe a little bit free relation that I made, but I think that there are 2 exceptional pieces in the both in the organ and in the harpsichord works of Bach, dealing with chromatism and with harmonic research. So going so far away that there is a link. Of course,
I see.
These 2 pieces are the Fantasia in G minor for organ, 542, and the so-called Fantasia chromatic 903 for harpsichord. So the search of this harmonic expansion, this extreme chromaticism with enharmonic passages, and this is unique in these 2 pieces. You don't find anywhere else in such a level, so in such a big quantity in the Bach pieces. So I think there is a link, even if there are no thematic links in that case, but they are also in the structure. It's really almost the same, with sudden contrast, with recitativi, and so I think there is a link, and I admit it is a little bit free link I made, but I think that the two pieces are two way of expressing the same ideas and the same research and also the same affects.
I like your idea of putting those G minor fantasia and D minor chromatic fantasia in the middle of the project, and then making mirror tracks, because you start with the D major and end with D major, right?
Yes.
The second piece is C major, and the piece before the last is C major also. It's like mirror.
Yes, like a mirror. Yes, I wanted to. Beautiful. I decided to make it like this, also because I found it was not very nice to change. Every time between organ and harpsichord. So I prefer to have two separate parts, first organ part and then harpsichord part, because of course I had to record the two parts in two different acoustics, and the instruments are sounding really very different, in a very different way. So maybe for the pedagogical and aspect, to make this link between pieces more understandable, it would have been more easier to put one piece after the other, so organ, harpsichord, organ. But I think for the final effect of the program was not so good. So I decided to make really a mirror. That's very good. It's very easy nowadays to skip from one piece to the other. Exactly. It's modern technologies.
Exactly. And no Maurizio, can you tell a little bit about the instruments that you used, organs and harpsichord?
Yes, I use my own harpsichord, which is a copy of As. As was Hieronymus Albrecht As. It's an instrument made in 1723, which is now in the Copenhagen Museum. I think it's the only copy that has been made of this instrument. As was famous for making very huge harpsichords. He also made a famous harpsichord with 3 keyboards, with 16 foot and many stops. My one is a big harpsichord, not so big, but he has 2 keyboards and 3 8 stops, and a 4 stop, which is a 4-foot stop, which is playable on both manuals. So with the so-called dog leg system and the lute. So it's a quite original sound. So I think this it gives you possibilities to play, for instance, on one keyboard with 8/8/4 and answering, making echo or contrast with 8/4 on the second keyboard, which is not very common to listen in a harpsichord.
Wonderful. And
so a German harpsichord with a quite big sound, and the organ is an organ reconstructed by Jürgen Arendt in Payerne near Fribourg in Switzerland. It was an organ made by Johann Melchior Grob in 1787. But only few stops, the dispositions of the stops and the case were preserved when Arendt made this reconstruction. So I must say it's mainly a new Arendt organ, but based on these old stops, old pipes, and on the old disposition. But I find it very, very beautiful, very inspiring organ. I already made a CD there, I think 15 years ago, the Andreas Bach book. And this is an instrument that I like very much in a very beautiful acoustic. So I decided to use it.
Wonderful. So I think this is a beautiful idea that other organists could explore with perhaps other other composers, right? Not only Bach, but let's say Buxtehude, right? Or Frescobaldi and others, how they incorporated both harpsichord and keyboard and organ ideas into similar compositions.
Yes,
right?
yes. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm not the first to make such a program. Such a program divided with organ and harpsichord, and I think it was quite common in the early times that organists were harpsichordists. So it's very, as you say, it's very interesting to compare organ pieces and harpsichord pieces in recordings or in programs. Mm-hmm. Let's say that also that in some cases one cannot easily recognize one, so divide organ pieces from harpsichord pieces. It's the case of most of the Italian or South European music of the 17th century, where, for instance, Frescobaldi, you have many toccatas that are playable at the same way, not in the same way, but they are playable or the harpsichord or on the organ, and it's the same on with Spanish music maybe, or also with other repertoires.
So Maurizio, who are you first, harpsichordist or organist?
Organist, of course. Organist.
Or is it really necessary to choose? Maybe you can be both, right?
Yes, I've tried to do both, but yes, I as I told you, my first call for music was for the organ, and harpsichord I discovered a little bit later. But nowadays I love both instruments at the same time. But of course I have more opportunities to play the organ in public, and so I must say I'm mostly working as an organist.
Mm-hmm. Does harpsichord playing help you to become a better organist and vice versa?
I think yes. I think especially the harpsichord playing helps to play because you need this attention for details, for small details, for a very precise technique. Mm-hmm. So it helps to make the same work on the organ, and it helps a lot to make the organ well speaking and singing. I think it's very important.
I suspect, Maurizio, that harpsichord for the organist who specializes in early music like yourself is quite necessary, maybe the same as piano for the organist who specializes in French symphonic repertoire, let's say, right?
Yes.
In a similar way, right? Because
absolutely.
Let's face it, all the organists in Bach's day and in Frescobaldi's day and other times could play both instruments equally well, probably.
Yeah, yes, of course. Musicians at that time were playing harpsichord, clavichord, keyboard instruments at the same level most of the time. And then concerning the later repertoire, it's obvious that many pieces, organ pieces of that time were composed singing also to the piano. So the technique is the piano technique, and the composer were singing also to the piano. And I think you need to play the piano to really play in a good way and to understand this repertoire.
Mm-hmm. So Maurizio, what would be your number one advice for people who are studying both organ and harpsichord today? How they can best combine those instruments to the fullest advantage?
Difficult question.
Yeah, maybe.
I think the simple fact to play to try to make the two instruments playing the best way possible, with each instrument with his own means of expression of dynamic possibilities, and is exploring in a deeply way characteristic of the instruments makes the musician developing some skills that are really very, very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And you probably also want to add that we have to divide the time for practice equally, right? For organ and harpsichord, if we want to master both instruments well.
Yes, of course, yes.
Wonderful.
I will not say that one instrument is easier than the other.
No, so I didn't mean that.
You need to practice both. Of course, then it depends also of what you have to do. What are your engagement and but in a study level, I will. If you want to really do both, you should divide your times.
Mm-hmm. Great. So Maurizio, thank you so much for your generosity with sharing ideas today. It's this hour went so fast, like a great recital, right? We didn't even notice. And of course, listeners all over the world now would like to know more about you, your work, your CDs. So can you tell and share the link with them where they can find out more?
Yeah, you can find more on my website, which is www.maurizio MaurizioCroci.com, MaurizioCroci.com. There you can find everything about my activities and also Il Pegaso activities, my CDs, and also the activities of the Organ Academy in Fribourg,
yes,
which has, of course, its own website, which is academyorg.ch, academyorg.ch, and you find about the festival, and also we have a scholarship, which is I would like to underline for students who wants to come to study in Fribourg for 1 year, and we have also organ vespers and children programs and so on.
Fantastic. I'll make sure I'll put those links into the description of the conversation so that people can click and visit the site right away.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maurizio. Have a tremendous creativity this year and keep sharing your love for both harpsichord and organs to the children of all ages.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you liked this conversation, I encourage you to visit my blog Secrets of Organ Playing at organduo.lt, where you will find lots of insights, practical advice and training for every area of organ playing. You can subscribe to this blog for free to get your daily dose of inspiration and to be the first to know when any of my future podcasts roll out. I hope to help you reach your dreams in organ playing. I'm Vidas Pinkevičius. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you online really soon.